Hi everyone, it's Dashus. If I showed you a picture of all my Pokemon Game Boy titles lined up in a row, would you be able to tell me which box is real among the sea of fakes? Take a few seconds to think about it. Got your guess? Well, the real box is Pokemon Yellow. The rest are fakes. If you guessed right, congratulations. If not, don't sweat it, because literally a handful of my subscribers weren't able to get it right, except for one subscriber who somehow figured it out. What I'm trying to get across is that Pokemon reproduction boxes in games have gotten so good in 2025 that it's nearly impossible to tell them apart from the real thing unless you really know what you're looking for. Today's video is actually the kickoff to a little Pokemon series I've been building behind the scenes, a mix of niche collecting rabbit holes, ROM hack curiosities, and retrospectives meant for people who love this stuff as much as I do. To start things off, I'm going to be talking about how I got into collecting fake Pokemon boxes and reproduction carts, along with a special guest appearance from my fiancé, who was actually one of the key reasons I realized repro cartridges are a totally valid option in this brutal 2025 economy. Everyone loves collecting authentic video games. I mean, I'm the first to say that if I had the choice between getting a CIB, complete in box version of Pokemon Red, versus one from AliExpress, I'd be the type of person to comb through my bank account to see if I could somehow budget the real version into my life. However, with the current prices of these older Pokemon titles, let alone Game Boy titles, even DS ones, it just isn't feasible for me, or honestly for most people. So what was I supposed to do? I love Pokemon and I love collecting. These are like my two biggest hobbies in life. Well, that's where my fiancé steps in when he introduced me to the world of reproduction games on AliExpress. I had no clue about these things until he pointed it out, but on AliExpress, they sell reproduction Game Boy Pokemon games with the box, tray, and manual included. And without me knowing about it, my fiancé decided to surprise me by impulse buying Pokemon Red, Blue, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Ruby, Sapphire, FireRed, LeafGreen, and Emerald, all for a little over $300, including shipping and tax. Now, this is how he tried justifying the purchase. We have a more or less CIB copy of Pokemon Yellow that we bought for around $320. That was just for one game alone, even with an insert missing. However, for about the same price, albeit a little bit cheaper, he was able to snag 10 Pokemon games in their respective boxes with manuals, even if they're reproduction copies. So, which was the better investment? I'd say they both are, but for different reasons. I'll let my fiancé do a bit more explaining.
Hey guys, so let me just start off by saying that us getting the reproduction copies of the games is in no way the end goal of what we're trying to do here. We want to get all the Pokemon games CIB, complete in box. And we already own most of the actual physical games. The thing is, after purchasing Pokemon Yellow for about $300, I realized something. We basically paid $210, maybe $220 for cardboard and paper. Eventually, that's all going to wither away. The condition of Pokemon Yellow is fine, but the fact that I have to baby it, opening it like it's made of wet tissue paper, it makes it almost disheartening to even own it. I get the nostalgia of having the original box, the original packaging, the original everything, but while I did want the originals, what I really cared about was having something that looked nice on the shelf, and a nice case to actually store the physical game in. So that's when I started searching online to see how people display their Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. I've got all my games all on display, everything looks nice and clean, but it's really hard to display the Game Boy Advance games, and the Pokemon games are a big deal. I saw some promising setups. Some people were using DS cases with custom Pokemon art, others were using cassette tape boxes with custom printed inserts, but there's just something about having an actual Game Boy styled box itself on the shelf, something that makes people go, wow, look at that. Since I'm not exactly in the mood to spend $300 times 10, basically $3,000, on CIB games, and that's honestly on the cheap side because Lord knows how much Emerald and Crystal go for CIB, I started looking on AliExpress, and I found these CIB boxes that looked almost identical to the real thing. And take it from me, I know what the real thing looks like. I work at a retro video game store, and I've seen the real boxes come in hundreds of times. After careful consideration, I figured, you know what, I'm gonna get these for the aesthetic, put my OEM carts inside them, and then, on the plus side, I get to play these games without stressing about damaging the real cartridges. The real ones being FireRed, Emerald, Yellow, and Crystal.
When we received the packages, we were honestly surprised. The boxes were immaculate. Brand new, plastic wrapped, exactly like the photos on the AliExpress page. They came with the manuals, the black Game Boy manual thing, and even a plastic protective sleeve for the box. And after looking through all of them, we had zero complaints. Red and blue are the only ones that don't look 100% original, according to my fiancé, because the plastic feels a little different, and they've got more of a shiny gloss. The originals were more of a matte finish, so red and blue aren't perfect, but they still look amazing on a shelf. The rest of them, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance titles, look almost like the real deal. The glossiness and the ceramics on gold, silver, and crystal are almost identical to the originals. We almost didn't want to open them because we weren't sure if they were actually real games sealed in plastic. Imagine the kind of video that would have made. FireRed and LeafGreen though, I had to look up legitimate copies online to spot the differences. Whoever made these on AliExpress did a darn good job. Same with Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, especially Emerald. It not only has the correct design, it even has that sparkly emerald texture pattern thing going on. The particle effect looks spot on. The purpose of these reproduction carts are part display, part play. We do plan on eventually getting the real Pokemon games because, yeah, we want to cache them all in the collection, but we also want to actually play them. It's not just something that's going to sit on the shelf.
Now, I understand the bad reputation reproduction games have. A lot of them use cheap PCBs. Sometimes you can't transfer to legit copies, sometimes the saves die. Some repros of Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald don't even include the battery needed for time-based events. And I get all that. I chose to do a bit of research into this myself, just to figure out which repro carts were actually good. After some scholarly studies, the ones I ended up getting were the 1M flash carts, as opposed to the IC flash RAM or SRAM carts. From my limited understanding, SRAM carts are usually the ones with that glob of black goo that acts like a thermal compound. The 1M flash carts don't overheat and have more chips on the board to separate the workload. After testing these for about 2 weeks, I've gotta say, I'm super impressed. The quality of these chips are honestly through the roof. I forget I'm even playing a reproduction. It feels like the real deal.
If you're wondering, yes, you can trade and do multiplayer with legitimate copies. We have real Red and real Emerald, and they trade with the repro carts just fine. Trading between two fakes, that also works. We tested the Game Boy wireless adapter, and that works too, zero issues. The time-based batteries and real-time clocks also work. If I play at night, the game's at night. If I play during the day, it's daytime. The saves work like original hardware. None of that loading save file message that bad repros have.
Now, the only thing I will say about the functionality of these carts is don't use Gameshark with them. Through all the testing I did, trying to see what a real cart can do versus what a repro can't, that was the only bump in the road. A Gameshark will absolutely kill the reproduction cart. It just can't handle it. That being said, I do have a Game Boy Flash cart, and I was actually able to reflash the repro and save the save file that the Gameshark supposedly destroyed. I was even able to transfer the save from the fake game onto a real game, and it worked perfectly. So yeah, if you really wanted to, you could probably even cheat on the computer instead. Everything I just said pretty much seals it for me. This is the best repro cart I've ever held and used.
We're eventually getting all the real games anyway. At this point, we're only missing a bit more. Gold, Ruby, Sapphire, Leaf Green, Black 2, White 2, Platinum, and Diamond and Pearl. Having said that, I know this brings up the massive elephant in the room. Before anyone jumps into the comments with the classic, "Oh, but aren't reproduction games piracy" thing, I do want to talk about that for a second because it's a fair question. The way I see it, reproduction carts are only an issue when someone's trying to pass them off as real to scam somebody into buying them. That's not what we're doing, and that's not what this video is about. We're collectors. We'd literally own a lot of the authentic cartridges, the original hardware and everything. These repro boxes and carts aren't meant to replace the real thing. They're stand-ins so we can display the games without risking hundreds of dollars of aging cardboard. And honestly, I'm not about to flex a $900 Emerald box on a shelf and pray the house humidity doesn't eat it alive. These aren't fakes we're reselling. These aren't things we're trying to pass off as legit. They're for personal use, for playing, and for display. These games aren't being manufactured anymore. There is literally no official modern way to buy Pokemon Red, Blue, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, FireRed, or Leaf Green. Not physically, not digitally, not on Switch Online, not anywhere. Nintendo isn't offering them at all. Our hands are kind of tied. There were some options back when Nintendo was selling them on the 3DS through Virtual Console, but that option disappeared last year. If Nintendo actually put these games on Switch Online, or even re-released them for like $30 a pop, I would be first in line. Honestly, we'd probably buy them twice just because it would feel so nice to finally support them in a real, viable way. And it would also help the entire retro market chill out a bit. Prices would drop, collectors wouldn't be fighting for scraps, and everyone could just breathe. It'd do a lot of good. But that's just not the climate we live in. And while that's still the case, nobody should feel pressured to cough up anywhere between $300 to $900 just to enjoy a game that came out nearly 3 decades ago. It's wild because people will say just buy them legit as if there's a checkout button somewhere. No, the only legit option is buying from another person, and that's not money going to Nintendo. That's just me wiring a stranger $350 for a box that's older than me. And even if you do own the originals, they're falling apart. Plastics literally decay. My fiancé went to change the battery on his copy of Crystal, a real copy, and the moment he loosened the back screw, the plastic basically disintegrated. It just crumbled like it was tired of existing. That's the reality of 20-plus-year-old cartridges. They weren't built to survive this long. So between no official way to buy these games and the originals physically aging out of existence, grabbing repros is honestly the only way most people can play or display these games without sacrificing something irreplaceable. If anything, this whole reproduction setup keeps the authentic stuff safer. It lets me actually enjoy the games without feeling like I'm committing a crime every time I take a cartridge out of the box. I respect the real collectors, I respect the purists, I get where the concern comes from, but in this economy, with these prices, using a reproduction as a placeholder isn't unethical, it's practical. Anyways, sorry for the little rant there. I just get heated sometimes because collecting is supposed to be fun, not something that drains your wallet and makes you question your life choices. At the end of the day, this hobby is about enjoying the games, the memories, the nostalgia, not stressing over some bizarre price gouged market that only gets worse every year. So if repro cards or boxes help you enjoy the series without wrecking your bank account, then honestly go for it. Collect what makes you happy. Play what you love. Don't let anyone shame you for not dropping half a paycheck on a 20-plus-year-old game. This hobby belongs to all of us, not just the people who can't afford the museum prices. Let's keep it fun, let's keep it accessible, and let's keep loving Pokemon the way we always have, without the financial punishment. And that's my take on it. If you're someone who loves exploring the depths of the gaming community, hit that subscribe button below and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Also, make sure to join my Discord server where we chat about games, share recommendations, and just vibe between uploads. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. See you guys later.
With cozy games, she lights up our days. From Stardew Fields to Genshin's lush ways. Join her in adventures in every play. Oh, Duchess